Well, we're expecting a first rate hike from the Bank of Canada in the middle of 2022 because it's consistent with the bank's measures of when those gaps in output and employment are likely to be fully closed in the economy.
I'm Natalie Danowski. Welcome back to the Midweek Exchange. Today, we're going to break down inflation and explain the different ways it could be impacting your life. As always, Brett House is here. He's Scotiabank's VP and Deputy Chief Economist. Hi, Brett.
Hi, Natalie. Thanks for having me back on.
We've spoken a lot about prices and just how the price of everything has gone up. Now, headline inflation has been above the Bank of Canada's target band for about 6 months now. Why hasn't the bank raised interest rates to keep inflation under control?
Well, it's a great question. I think it's worth first explaining how the Bank of Canada thinks about inflation. Since the 1990s, Canada's central bank has had a mandate to keep annual inflation at or around 2% per year, with a 1 percentage point margin for error on either side. But as you mentioned, it's been above 3% since April. It's worth noting that some of that inflation is just the result of the comparison we're making with a very weak 2020. Prices were kept relatively low last year because demand pulled back as things were shut down. That component of our headline inflation rate is going to start coming down next year as we compare 2022 prices with relatively strong prices and activity this year as we've reopened. But some of that headline inflation certainly reflects new pressures in the economy. We've talked about the supply bottlenecks that are affecting many sectors where reopening just isn't going that smoothly, goods and services are held up, and demand is increasing and pushing prices higher. And last week, Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem indicated that he sees those pressures being a little more persistent into next year than he's forecast in the past. Now, higher interest rates could be one way to bring those price pressures back under control, but the bank isn't likely to start raising its key benchmark policy rate this year because it still sees a lot of slack in the economy. There's some sectors that still haven't fully reopened and might not yet for some months, even while other sectors are producing at even greater rates and higher employment than they were at prior to the pandemic. So the bank doesn't want to raise interest rates right now and cut off the recovery in those sectors that are still reopening.
So, if not right now, when do you expect the Bank of Canada to move on this?
Well, we're expecting a first rate hike from the Bank of Canada in the middle of 2022 because it's consistent with the bank's measures of when those gaps in output and employment are likely to be fully closed in the economy. It's worth noting, though, that the Bank of Canada is already moving. It's already begun tapering purchases in bond markets, which is another tool that it uses to keep market interest rates down. And as it pulls back on those purchases, it allows bond market interest rates to go up. So it's already taking some action to curb price pressures. It's just not action that most of us see.
So, what does all of this mean for mortgage rates? Should people be locking in a rate right now?
Well, if you've got a variable rate mortgage, it's tied to the Bank of Canada's policy rate, which we don't see moving until the middle of next year. But if you're looking at new fixed rate mortgages, those rates are already going up because they are tied to bond market rates. And those rates are likely to continue increasing right through 2022 and into early 2023.
Okay, so what are we looking forward to in the next week?
Well, the biggest thing on the horizon in this space is the Bank of Canada's next policy rate decision on Wednesday, October 27th, where we do expect them to keep their policy rate on hold, but continue signaling reduced purchases in bond markets to let those market rates of interest go up.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Brett.
Great to speak.
Great to speak with you too. And we'll have more Midweek Exchange coming up next Wednesday.